how I dress for interviews over the phone, over the computer. Wow, hello, and welcome to the Dirt Road to Recovery. I am your host and creator, Kyle Higgins. Today I'm going to share my testimony with you. I want to share my story, a little bit about my past and my addiction and where I come from and what brought me here today talking to you. I don't know if this is a sad story, and I don't know if this is a happy story. I don't know if this story is a story of inspiration or a story of tragedy. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of downs, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you would like to see the video of this recording on my YouTube channel, go to my website. You can find a YouTube link, or if you go to YouTube, my channel is the letters DR, the number 2, then recovery. That's DR, the number 2, recovery. So I try and get through my testimony without too much emotion. I speak at a lot of churches and high schools and a few colleges, and I've done this before. Sometimes I can get through without some emotion, but usually I can't. So forgive me if I have to pause and stop for a brief moment. I have some PTSD. I have a lot of trauma from my addiction, and there's certain things that just trigger my brain, and there's just emotions that sometimes I can't control. So I apologize for that. I'll always try to clean it up as soon as I can. But if there's the emotion that you want to see, feel free to go to the YouTube channel, and you can watch this whole recording. So anyway, from there I'll get started. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri when I was almost 4 years old. My parents moved me to Denver, Colorado. My dad worked in the oil field. I have a younger brother and sister. Sister was born in Louisiana. My brother was born here in Denver, Colorado. Growing up, I had everything a kid could have asked for. We didn't have a ton of money. We were, I would say we were middle class at the time. My dad worked in the oil field and has since worked his way up and does very well. But at the time, we were a struggling family, just a struggling middle-class family that moved into what ended up being a metropolis in suburbia called Highlands Ranch. Here is just a suburb south of Denver, Colorado. So that is where I grew up. Highlands Ranch is a very rich. It's a very rich area. There's a lot of wealthy people. Some would call it ritzy, yuppie. There's a lot of words for Highlands Ranch, Colorado, but I loved it. It was a great place to grow up. I had everything I could have asked for. My parents were high school sweethearts from a little town in Kansas called El Dorado. We didn't. I had never faced or seen drinking in excess. My parents never drank in front of me. My dad occasionally had a beer, but I never ever saw him drunk till his 50th birthday when I was 21. But I never saw my dad drunk once. I never saw my mom drink. There just wasn't drink. I would go to Christmases and Thanksgivings in Kansas, and there would be not one alcoholic beverage there. Drinking wasn't a part of my family. It wasn't a part of anything I was ever even around, and especially drugs, even tobacco. I was just never around it as a kid. I always played a lot of sports. Going into high school, I kind of developed a name for myself through sports. I was a pretty good athlete. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I played football, baseball. I rode rodeo in the summer, and I played rugby after baseball season. I was a very well liked and respected in high school. I was known as the kid who stayed away from the party crowds and the drinking crowds. I actually received an award my junior year. The senior classmen voted me into this association that was called the Ranch Hands, and the Ranch Hands were known for not only their athletic abilities on the field, but their attitude and behavior off the field. Everybody knew that I stayed away from any types of drugs or alcohol off the field. I was someone, I guess you could say, people might have looked up to, and I was very polite, respectful to everyone. I had a lot of friends. Their parents always appreciated my time and energy. I was the homecoming king, the prom king. You know, I was defensive captain of the football team. I was defensive player, and I could go on. And I'm not trying to sit here or brag or boast about myself. I'm trying to paint a picture of my sobriety before my addiction. Um, Senior day of football season, we invite our parents onto the field for halftime, and we give them a letter and give our mom a big bouquet of flowers. And I remember that letter I wrote to my parents, and it was pretty much thanking them for everything that they had done. Literally said in the letter that I will never drink or do drugs because of the way I was raised. I love you guys very much, and thank you for everything. And kind of topping that off, I never listened at the Dare the Dare project when they came to my grade school. In the high schools, when people would come and say their testimony and about how addiction almost ruined their lives and stole everything, I was always the one who was like, I will never be that person. That guy's a loser. Literally somebody I will never be. I'm way above that. I don't even need to listen at these um these oh shit, man, what the are they called? Anyway, the whole high school would go and listen to these speakers in the gymnasium, and I never listened. I never paid attention. I never thought that I would be there. I judged them. I put them beneath me, and that's not okay to put people beneath you ever, because if you're capable of putting people beneath you, you're also capable of putting people above you. And in my eyes, we're all equal here. So anyway, I ended up going to the University of Wyoming. I drank for my first time at the end of my senior year, going into high school or going into college. I had 2 beers, and I remember I puked everywhere. My 21st birthday in college, I tried to go out to the bars, but I hit a 4-foot bong and passed out before I could even make it to the bars. So I didn't even get drunk on my 21st birthday. In college, I paid a lot more attention to the outdoors. I've always been a very big outdoorsman, hunting and fishing, hiking, backpacking, camping, motorcycles. I've always been something in my life that have been very valuable, especially in my recovery. So going to the University of Wyoming, that's pretty much all I did. My parents recognized that, and 3 years after the University of Wyoming, I got pulled out of school because my grades weren't bad, but I was just not really paying attention. So I moved back down to Denver and was still riding in little rodeo jackpots, just kind of around town to make some extra money on the weekends for the competition and a little bit of adrenaline rush. Well, I ended up getting hurt pretty bad. Riding a bull named Tommy Boy, I got my hand stuck in the rope and was stuck there for 15 seconds. Literally, the stock contractors, the bullfighters, and even participants up in the stands all jumped out into the arena and pulled my hand out of the rope because I was a knocked out ragdoll, just being controlled, completely manipulated by this bull. I woke up and I had a lot of problems, and what they did was send me to a pain specialist. My back, jaw, I won't go into details, but I was a mess. And this pain specialist, when I got to him, the first thing he did was prescribe me. It's been so long, I don't remember the exact. It was maybe 250 to 300. They were 30 milligram Roxys, or pretty much OxyContin, a month, and then also 110 milligram Valium with the option of a refill, so 210 milligram Valium a month. I took them as prescribed. I liked the way they made me feel, honestly. They did take away the pain, but they also, they kind of gave me a little bit of energy. I felt happy, like I could talk to anyone and everyone for hours. At the time, I was dating someone. She was going to school at the University of Arizona. I fell in love with her, so doing a long distance relationship was tough for me. She was about 3 years younger and in a sorority, so I would try to fly down as much as I could to see her and fly her back to Denver as much as she could to see me, but we were just at different phases in our lives, and she needed to live a little bit. So, long story short, she kind of broke my heart, and I started abusing these painkillers that I had. A friend of mine, I wouldn't call him a friend, a guy I knew worked at a liquor store. He recommended that I start to snort them, that they would work better if I snorted them. So I started snorting my prescription, and he was right. It did. It hit a lot harder, and it numbed you a lot quicker. And with what I was going through and heartache, it was nice to have, because I could actually like get some sleep and eat. Because when you're going through a heartache, I'm sure the majority of you know how it is. It hurts very bad, and I'm a Pisces, so it probably hurts a little bit worse. But I don't know. Maybe not. It's just it's tough. It's tough, especially when you're an old soul and an empath. It was very hard on me, so I started abusing my painkillers. Not only abusing them by snorting them, but taking more than I was prescribed every day. From there, I started buying them on the streets. Obviously, I would run out of my medication early, and I would have to go to the streets and buy Oxycontin. At the time, it was $1 a milligram, and I was buying 80 milligram Oxycontin, so spending anywhere from $60 to $80 for one 80 milligram pill. I was working IT. A guy who I rode rodeo with got me a job as an IT tech at a data center. So I was installing networks and communication systems. I was starting to go downhill as far as my work performance going. As far as my work performance, especially when I started abusing the medication and buying it from the streets. Eventually, my boss decided to go on an adventure, and I was hired on as the manager of the place. By this time, my injuries had kind of healed. I was just kind of starting to abuse the medication. I decided to ride a bull again, get back into the rodeo. So I went and rode one night. I got on a couple bulls. I remember I got my face smashed in pretty good. But after that, I went to a bar down in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. It was called Lodo's, and it's since closed down because of COVID. But I was walking into Lodo's, and I saw a line of about 100 guys and 100 girls just down the staircase, out the door, wrapped around for miles. It was crazy, but they were all dressed to the T. They all looked beautiful, all of them. So anyway, I walked in there. I looked like a mess. I'd just gotten off a bull, and literally, no joke, covered in bullshit. Had a big gash across my face from a horn that I took getting thrown over and dashboarded just slightly. I was wearing a horsehair sport coat, a V-neck, white V-neck T-shirt, and I had a beanie on. My hair was pretty long, and sat down at the bar. I ordered a Jack and Coke, and all of a sudden there was a camera in my face. It was Channel 9 News from Denver, Colorado, and they asked me if I'd be willing to do a casting for The Bachelor or The Bachelorette on ABC's hit reality TV show. I then knew what that line was there for, and I told them, no way, I'm not going to stand in that line for a reality TV show. Plus, I was busted up from the bull ride. I didn't look that great. Everybody looked way better than I did. And they said, no, we'll throw you to the front of the line. We'll buy you a drink. But the casting director saw you, and she wants you to do a quick interview. So we went up, and I was a little bit tipsy. They bought me another double Jack and Coke. I remember one of the questions was, do you believe in true love? And I do. I truly do. True love and pure love is the most powerful force here on the universe. So anyway, I kind of went into a spiel about how much I believe in true love and blah, blah, blah. And after the interview, she's like, well, how would you like to be a contestant on The Bachelorette? Things aren't finalized yet, but we really like you, and would you be willing to keep your hair long if we selected you? And I said, yeah, my hair was long at the time, and I didn't have any tattoos, to be honest. Well, I did, but not a lot. Long story short, I ended up making it. They flew me out for the final interview to LA. They fly out 50 guys and pick 25, and that was truly the first time I went through withdrawal. I remember I didn't bring my medication with me because I kind of wanted to be on point for this interview, and I left my Roxy's or Oxys at home. I went to the interview, and man, I got sick. I got really sick. The vomiting, the diarrhea, the sweating, the shaking, any type of withdrawal syndrome you could imagine. I had it, and I thought I was sick. I thought I had the flu. I didn't really know what was going on, but I was very anxious to get home. Um, when I got home, I took some of my pills, and kind of went back to normal at the time. And you're probably not going to believe this, but I didn't put it together. I didn't really think, like, I could never imagine I was a drug addict. I didn't even drink. I didn't smoke weed. I had never done anything in my life. Like, imagining I was addicted to a substance, to imagine my body was now fully dependent on something just to feel normal, was foreign to me. I didn't know that I was feeling so physically awful because I didn't bring my medication. But I went home, I took it, and I felt better. But like I said, I didn't really put it together. I didn't relate my physical condition and actually feeling normal to taking my medication. It didn't click. I never listened at the Dare program. I never listened at the assemblies when people would come to speak at my high school. So I never really knew what addiction was. So, and even that these pills that I was taking were addictive. So anyway, I kind of got back to normal. Well, ABC called and told me I was a final contestant, that I had made it, and that I was going to be on season 6 of The Bachelorette with Ali Fedikowski, and that I was also chosen to be one of their 6 or 7 men on the premiere that they did a short story on. So they flew some guys out from California to film me ice fishing. They wore ankle socks and Vans and like these high water jeans onto 12 inches of snow and ice on Chatfield Reservoir here down in Littleton, Colorado. And I had to put them in my ice hut and then turn the heater on for them because they were obviously frozen. And then the ABC kind of made me look like this outdoorsman, mountain man, pretty desperate for a girlfriend and a partner, which is okay. It's TV. It's a part of the show. It's a part of production. It's a part of the entertainment. So I went on The Bachelorette. At the time, I kind of figured the reason for my withdrawal was because I wouldn't take my prescriptions, and I just wanted to quit. I wanted to be done. So before I flew out to California for the final filming, I left my medication at home, and what I did was I smuggled a bunch of Suboxone. And for those of you who don't know what Suboxone is for heroin addicts or opiate addicts, and when you go through withdrawal, pretty much it masks your withdrawal. It infiltrates your opiate receptors, so your opiate receptors can't take in any more opiates, and it blocks your opiate receptors pretty much is what it does if it has the naloxone in it, and mine did. So you don't feel withdrawal, you don't get high off of it, and you don't feel any type of relief or any type of a high feeling, but you don't go through withdrawal and you can actually sleep. So what I did was I smuggled a bunch of Suboxone underneath my tongue in a little tiny party balloon that I tied in a balloon knot. I was going through airport security, and I thought, I'll put it under my tongue. If for some reason airport security wants to check me, I'll just swallow it and poop it out when I'm on the show and dig through my own poop and get it. And that was the only way I could survive through the final filming of The Bachelorette, because I was an opiate addict, and if I didn't have anything, I would be sweating and vomiting and diarrhea on camera. Like, it wouldn't have been good. I guess I could have drank myself to death and masked it, but that just it wasn't an option. And with an opportunity like the one I had, I felt at the time like I couldn't ruin it. So I smuggled the Suboxone out there. I quit the Oxycontin, and I ended up not making it very far. I didn't even get a rose the first night. They did call me back for the Menthol All episode, but It is what it is. It was a cool experience. Reality TV is not something I would ever do again, but I'm very grateful for the experience in ABC and everything that the production, producers, every directors. It was it was something I was grateful for. So anyway, I come back to Colorado. I had just hired a kid at the data center I worked for. He was from Texas, and he was obviously talking about how did the filming go? How did just asking how it went, and I told him about the Suboxone, and now I'm going through terrible withdrawal, and he said, "Have you ever tried heroin?" And I honestly might have freaked out just a little bit. I'd heard of heroin. I didn't know what it did. I didn't know how it worked. Just like cocaine and meth, I've heard of it. I'd never seen it. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what type of drug it was. I didn't know its effects. I was very, very uneducated and ignorant when it came to drugs and addiction and even alcohol. So since I had hired him, I wanted to hit him in the face. I just, how dare you offer me this drug? And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait, what is heroin? And he kind of looked at me with shock in his eyes and said, heroin is pretty much the street version of the Oxycontin you take. It's the exact same thing. It's just made by the cartel, and instead of pharmacists, instead of scientists in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was feeling pretty awful. I couldn't work, I couldn't speak, I couldn't sleep. I diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, the constant eyes watering, yawning, sneezing, sweating, shaking, the anxiety, the restless leg syndrome. There's so many. There's so much that goes into withdrawal. It's probably one of the most painful things you could ever imagine, and I was going through it while at work and trying to make a living, and so I guess I was willing to try anything to get rid of it because he said it'll make you feel better. So he put a little bit of it was a brown powder, gunpowder looking heroin, and it was a marijuana bowl, and I smoked it, and immediately I went back to normal. I could function again. I could sleep. I could eat. I wasn't throwing up. I wasn't vomiting. I wasn't sweating and shaking. I could write in a freaking email. And I think right then and there, even though I never accepted it for a long time, was when I realized I was a drug addict. When I realized that everything I was against, that everything society was against, the movies, the TV shows, the sitcoms, you see the drug addict and he's always the bad guy. He's always the one robbing people. He's always the one shaking and sweating in bed. And now I was that person. I was the bad guy. I was the one society used to love and on The Bachelorette and Homecoming King and captain of the football team, and now I'm the one society deems a demon. The one everybody hates, the one people shoot during a home invasion and say he deserved it. And it hit very, very, very hard, even though my mind didn't accept it, and I believe that's almost a defense mechanism. For addicts and alcoholics, it takes a very, very long time to accept what you are and who you are, even though you fully depend on a substance just to feel normal. You still don't accept it. You still think that you're fine, and you think that you're okay, and you're in complete denial that addiction is now you. You are now the definition of addiction. And going from someone who was so well accepted to someone who was a menace to society was very tough. You don't want anybody to know. So you start to hide everything, and when you hide everything, that's extremely dangerous because the shape I was already in, I needed help. There's no way I could have done it by myself. And this is even early on in my addiction. This is just I had just smoked heroin for the first time and tried to quit the oxy. I don't want to talk here for too long, and I'm going to try to keep it around 30 minutes. But the last thing before I end this, when I tried to go in for my last prescription, the ATF was surrounding my doctor. In Parker, Colorado, there was probably about 10 to 15 unmarked, very dark vehicles, and I got out to get my prescription and went inside, and there was ATF agents everywhere with ARs, and it looked like the apocalypse in the doctor's office I was at. And turned out the doctor was being arrested for dirty practice, and I knew it was coming. I would go to the Walgreens just a couple blocks down from the doctor's office after getting my prescription, and there was a note on the door at the pharmacy that said, if anyone is here to fill a prescription from Dr. We'll say Dr. Little, his name Dr. Little, please turn around, because we will not prescribe you any opiates from this pharmacy. So the pharmacy obviously knew that he was a dirty doctor. He was prescribing everybody just copious amounts of painkillers and narcotics. And what had happened is some of his patients got caught dealing and selling all the painkillers he was pretty much dealing himself as a legal drug dealer. Some of the guys dealing his painkiller prescriptions had sold to some people who overdosed and died, and not just one or two, dozens and dozens. And it turned into a very big deal. He got arrested. I don't know where he's at today, but if you can imagine needing a prescription and going into a doctor's office for what you need and hearing that they're not going to fill it for you because the doctor's going to prison and his practice has been dirty, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all, because the spell that I was under, the control that I was under from this chemical and by the devil. I believe addiction and pharmaceuticals and drugs in general are the devil's sharpest tool in what he uses to control us, like the puppeteer. There was nothing I could do to stop. And I could try. I could get sober on my own for a week, two, one time even a month completely on my own. But just the draw and the pull, it always brings you back. The dark, dark, dark demonic forces that they just sit on your shoulder and constantly reel you in by the ear to whisper things that are going to destroy you, things that are going to take everything from you. And your family and your friends, and addiction doesn't just affect the addict, it fully affects everybody around you. I ended up losing everything. I'm going to stop it here, because this is when I start looking for heroin on the streets, and this is where I finally find the needle, and later meth, or I guess later cocaine and heroin, and then meth and heroin, and probation in 5 different counties in 2 different states, and homelessness and county jail. A lot of very, very violent drug deals gone wrong, a lot of robbing drug dealers and innocent people, a lot of robbing Walmarts and Lowe's and Home Depots, a lot of very dark, violent, graphic, traumatic, demonic times and reflections in my life that honestly I sit here and I'm thinking about it, sweating and shaking, and as my heartbeat increases, I'm still very, very grateful for, because without those I wouldn't be here speaking to you right now. So thank you so much for listening. I will continue my story the next podcast. Again, please like and definitely subscribe if you can. The more of those I get, the more people I can reach. And the more people I can reach, the more people I can help. And I believe I'm still alive for a reason. You know, from a couple of nights of putting guns in my mouth, or a shotgun to the bottom of my chin, or eating 35 Benadryl. I tried to end it all several times, and that doesn't even include waking up in the alley 3 or 4 days later several times in a car or next to a dumpster beat up, and you know, I shouldn't be here. There's no way I should be here, but somebody and something kept me here. And I honestly believe it's to talk to you and to share my story and hopefully inspire people and let people know that addiction isn't the end. Addiction isn't here to take everything from you. Though it will, you can get it back. You can always get material back. So for those struggling right now, please hang in there. You're worth it. You're worth it because I love you and God loves you. And you're worth it because I know there's somebody else out there who loves you. And to those somebody else out there who loves you, to those people who know someone struggling with addiction, to the mothers and fathers, aunts, uncles, grandmas, brothers, sisters, cousins, relatives, for those of you right now in tears crying because you know someone who's dying, you know someone who's under the control of a substance and they can't get away from it. And you know it's not them, and you know it's not their personality, and you know if you could speak to the sober person that they would immediately stop and quit to not only help save themselves, but to help the hurt stop in your heart. And addiction's confusing, addiction's a monster, addiction's demonic, and addiction is a tool of the devil, and I'm here to help fight. Sorry. I'm here to help you fight because I know the pain, and I know the struggle, and I know the hurt, and I know the control that addiction is capable of. And you just can't breathe. You can't even make a decision for yourself. And everybody thinks you're off just having this fucking awesome time. Like you're just partying and you're having so much fun getting high, but nobody knows that you're suffering more than anybody else could ever imagine. It's not fun. Being under the control of a substance and the devil is not fucking fun. So I'm here to help because I can relate. And I can't say I know what you've been through, but I can feel what you're going through my pure empath. And I love you. I truly do. I love you. I'm sorry for the emotion. I'm sorry for the tears, but recovery is something I'm very passionate about. And I just wish you all knew how capable you are of being something beautiful, because at once there was a time when I wasn't beautiful, and now I am. And I have a little girl who thinks I'm beautiful, and that's all that matters, and God thinks I'm beautiful. So I'm here to help you realize that you're beautiful too, and recovery is possible. Oh, I'm sorry. Recovery is possible for you and everybody, and for the person you know that's struggling. So please like and subscribe so I can reach more people. Please go to my website, www.thedirtroadtorecovery.com. All my links are there. Feel free to reach out to me. I promise I try to get back to everybody as soon as I can. If you know somebody or you or yourself are struggling, please stay tuned because I got a lot more material coming. I've also got some references and places I think everybody can go. Thank God Medicaid has stepped up and is now doing a little bit more about mental health and recovery, because we all need it. We don't need to be enabled, but we do need help. So I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, again, go to my website, www.thedirtroadtorecovery. You can find all my social media links there, even my personal Instagram, at spiritual_gangster spelled with a UR, not ER. So I love you all to pieces. Thank you for listening. God bless. Oh, I forgot I was still recording. Since you kind of get a behind the scenes thing here, I'm very passionate about recovery, and you're worth it. You really are. Your life is worth it. Your soul is worth it. Your heart is worth it. And being under the control of a substance is no way to live. What's even better is once you defeat that control, once you find freedom, your life is so beautiful. Your perspective is so beautiful, and I hope that you reach out to me or somebody who wants to help and who loves you and cares for real, because what addicts and alcoholics are capable of after recovery is incredible things. That the things that stops us is the addiction, is the drive, it's the pull to go back to substance, even 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years after sobriety. It's like, we still go back and we overdose. It's sad, and it's why I'm here. I could be dead tomorrow from an overdose, who knows, but until that day, I want you to know that I'm here to help, and I love you. My eyes are usually brown, but they look green right now.